Do not adjust your digital device. What you are about to see and hear may shock and appall you. Join our hosts as they encounter countless thrills, spills, chills, and hilarity as they explore the very weirdest in pop culture. The following media is so strange, so beyond the scope of what is normal, it will make you ask the question, why does this exist? Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Why Does This Exist? I'm Chris.
I'm Rob.
And we've got a very, very cool show today about a movie starring a legendary actor, Mr. Danny Trejo. And we're going to be talking about Machete, of course, a character with the most unlikely of origins that may or may not have been a machination of Robert Rodriguez's mind, the director of Spy Kids and, of course, Machete and the Once Upon a Time in Mexico saga and other films, most of them starring Danny Trejo or involving Danny Trejo in some way. We're going to be talking about Machete and just what an interesting, ridiculous movie it is. But before we get started, we want to thank you guys for doing everything that you can to help support us and listening to our show and being just very, very wonderful, groovy people. You can help support us a little bit further if you want to give us some money. You can head on over to Patreon. That's patreon.com/whydoesthisexist. And in doing so, you can be subject to a couple of bonus perks, such as us giving you a shout out or being able to get some access content that would include like watch-alongs, listen-alongs, additional banter, if you will, just basically some cut gems or uncut gems, if you want to, if you will, and if you want to, and if you want to really help us out and give us a couple of bucks, then you can even essentially write our show. Basically, that's right. You can actually tell us what you would like us to talk about, and we have to do it because you gave us money. So that sounds like a pretty winning combination to me. If you like the show, then maybe you'll do it. If you don't like the show, then maybe you'll just tell all your friends how bad we are, and then they'll just hate listen, and that would be okay too because more people will listen. So whatever you want to do, just keep listening to the show, and we would appreciate that. You can also hit us up and tell us how good or bad we are at whydoesthisexistshow@gmail.com. That's whydoesthisexistshow@gmail.com. You can even tell us about some other things that you'd like to see us talk about, like cricket, for example. What the hell is that? You can also...
Yeah, that's a good question.
You can even go on our YouTube channel, Why Does This Exist? Like, subscribe, hit the bell that nobody likes, comment, and do all those things, and just tell us, hey, listen, cricket is a weird thing. I don't know what it is. Like, maybe you should tell us what it is. I don't get it. My friend's been trying to get me to watch the cricket games all summer. I keep telling him no, but he's taking me to, but like the Pakistani deli that he takes me to where they watch cricket, the food's pretty good, but I don't want to watch cricket. Maybe, but now I feel bad, so I should probably watch cricket with this dude. What is cricket, so that way I don't look like an idiot in front of all the Pakistani deli owners and the people at the Pakistani deli watching the cricket. Yeah, I just want to fit in, man. Like, please talk about cricket. Yeah. But you can also follow us on social media. You can find us on Twitter at the handle WDTE Pod. That's WYD does T this E exist pod, like podcast. Does anybody even go on Twitter anymore? I'm not sure. I don't even know.
It's just a cesspool of the worst of all humanity.
It really is, which I guess that explains why we're on it. You can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/whydoesthisexistpod. Very similar, Why Does This Exist Pod. And you can also check out our episodes and way more additional content, which includes a bunch of cool articles about some other weird things and cool things, including one that you have recently wrote, Rob, about Kenshi. Kenshi is a really cool sandbox game, and if you don't know what that is, go to whydoesthisexistpod.com and read all about it. Extra, extra. Enjoy, try the veal. Whydoesthisexistpod.com. Alrighty, you can also find us on Podbean, wherever podcasts can be found, exactly. Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, Pandora, TuneIn, Alexa, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Listen Notes, and Stitcher. And if you can leave us a review on one of those places, please do so. Tell everybody how cool we are, or tell everybody we suck. We don't really care, because more people are going to end up finding it that way. All right, that's the news. Here's the weather. Let's get on with the goddamn show. Machete. What a strange movie. What an interesting character. What
an interesting character is, right? I mean, we can't talk about the Machete the movie without talking about Machete the character, and the fact that canonically Machete the character is the same Machete as in Spy Kids.
Yes.
So, in completely contrasting movies, like absolutely like on the opposite ends of the spectrum. Especially like ratings wise.
Yeah. Like Spy Kids is a movie for kids. I saw this in the theater. And
yes.
I didn't even know what it was. We just like I just remember it was Easter. It was Easter 2001. It was Easter weekend or something like that, or Good Friday or something. And my mom like had the day off, or she had a half day or whatever. And like we went with my next door neighbor Fred, and I think we went with my other next door neighbor Lewis, and we all just went to the movies. And like, because our parents they just wanted to get out of the house. They were like, hey, let's just take the kids to the movies. And and we didn't pick the movie. They were just like, hey, do you want to see this movie, Spy Kids? And we were like, okay, cool. Maybe somebody else picked it, but I didn't get it. We didn't pick it. So we were just like, all right, I guess we'll just watch this movie, Spy Kids. And and you know what Spy Kids is? It's a movie directed by Robert Rodriguez, who his other films are a lot more violent and gory, and they're like Mexican gangster films, basically.
Yeah.
Did I say the Once Upon a Time in Mexico saga? I meant El Mariachi.
Yes, El Mariachi.
My
but
apologies.
Once Upon a Time in Mexico is the most famous one.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we go to the movie and we see Spy Kids, and when it's a pretty good movie. But they've got they've got Cheech Marin in there, which is just interesting as their uncle, who turns out, spoiler, is not really their uncle. And Machete actually is the uncle of these kids, and their parents are spies and everything. I mean, it's funny. But it's actually a pretty good movie. But their real uncle is this interesting dude named Machete, who was like the gadget maker, because their parents are spies, and the kids find out their parents really do, and and now the kids are spies because they're the kids of the spies, so they're the spy kids. And Uncle Machete has like a dangerous edge to him, and you're just wondering why, because it's just like everything else is like it's like serious, but it's like playful because they're kids. But then Machete is just like this stone cold, like dead serious MFer that you don't want to screw with, and like he's talking to the kids this way, where he's like, you don't want any of this shit.
Yeah. Well, I would think that Machete, the movie Machete, is kind of like I would say it's a prequel to Spy Kids, if anything.
Yeah.
Because he gets his wife and his daughter are, his wife is murdered in front of him, and his daughter is implied to be murdered by the big bad guy played by Steven Seagal, Torres, who's like a Mexican drug lord that basically owns like all the friggin' people, and he owns like Machete's boss, who's like the head of the federales, and also owns like
Mexico.
And he basically owns everybody in Texas too. He owns the friggin' senator. And all the people in Texas. So, you kind of like learn that he's got like a dark past because he had to like go through that shit. So, in the movie Machete, he kind of goes on like a spree of revenge and gets payback against all the people that kind of like fucked him over. Right. And so I think Spy Kids, it's at this point now he's kind of settled down a little bit, and now he's just making gadgets. And so I guess he's like, he's not like
he's not to the killing anymore. He's more, he's just like, this is pretty much his lot in life. He's a glorified mechanic with like a sweet government job that like doesn't technically exist, basically.
Also, he does like help out in the end. He kind of jumps in and like fights beside them when they're fighting the army of children. At the end, the robot children. It's a weird plot. Robert Rodriguez films have very strange plots. You have to kind of watch them to like see what's going on because it's really over the top.
It's like a movie. It's like one of those movies where it's the types of movies where you don't realize that you should have been paying attention the whole time until it's too late.
Yeah.
So like you have to rewatch it like at least one other time just to like truly understand how many things are actually going on in the background.
See, now if you really want to go out on a limb too, we could try to say that El Mariachi is also somehow related to Spy Kids because Antonio Banderas plays El Mariachi and he also plays the father in Spy Kids.
Right. I mean, there's probably the only thing is Julia Roberts is not. Wait, no. It's not. Is Julia Roberts the mom? Who's the mom?
No, it's Carla. What's her name? Carla Gugino.
Okay, she looks a little bit like Julia Roberts.
A little bit.
I always confuse that. I always confuse her a little bit for some reason. She just has like a very slight resemblance to Julia Roberts. Anyway, or do I mean Sandra Bullock? It doesn't make a difference. She looks similar to. She looks like one of those two, or both of those two, a little bit. I always confuse them. Anyway, but you can very much like connect the two. I mean, it wouldn't really surprise me. I'm sure there's a theory out there that like connects them flawlessly. I've actually, I hate to make this confession, but I've actually never seen the El Mariachi movies. They're on my to-do list. I just haven't gotten around.
I've never seen El Mariachi. I think I've seen parts of Desperado.
Okay.
And I've seen, I believe, parts of Once Upon. I haven't seen them straight through, but I've seen parts of Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Yeah, I should get.
But I don't. A lot of people haven't seen El Mariachi, the first one, because that was really when Robert Rodriguez was really first kind of starting out, and it's kind of a lower budget film. It's and I'm pretty sure most of it is in Spanish. I think. I want
to say it is. I remember our good buddy Roberto Zuluaga, who for some reason has gotten the nickname of Roberto Sanchez, even though he's not Roberto Sanchez, he's Roberto Zuluaga.
Yeah. Well, it was his character he played. He was Tortilla Sanchez.
That's right.
Very similar to like Machete or El Mariachi, just like.
Yeah. Roberto is an on-off independent filmmaker that we know. He's a very cool guy, and me and him were briefly in a band together. He was a cool guy. I haven't seen him in a long time. I hope he's doing okay. But he was telling me about that movie, and he was I think he had told me that a lot of it was in Spanish, but it was really cool, and like that was one of the cooler things about it.
Well, also in El Mariachi is not played by Antonio Banderas in that one. It's played by Carlos Gallardo, who I've never actually heard of. I'm guessing he's a Mexican actor, so he probably isn't in a lot of English language films. Interestingly enough, though, he was in Desperado playing a different character. So,
that's interesting.
It's weird, a little weird there, but.
Yeah, all right.
Apparently he was also in Escape from LA, though. Oh, there you go.
Huh.
So El Mariachi was kind of like a little bit of it was independent. It was kind of low budget, and then he did Desperado, which was a higher budget, and they were able to get Antonio Banderas, who was a much bigger actor, to play El Mariachi, and then that kind of took off. And then later on came Once Upon a Time in Mexico, which is probably the most famous one, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think more people know about that one than anyone.
Yeah.
I actually, the second one, Desperado, had really kind of a star-studded cast. Salma Hayek, Steve Buscemi, Cheech Marin, which Robert Rodriguez puts Cheech Marin in a lot of his movies.
Yeah, he does.
But anyway, yeah. So actually, Spy Kids. The reason, and actually, Roberto was the one who told me this. The reason why Robert Rodriguez did the Spy Kids movies was to actually get the money to do the Grindhouse movies, like and including Machete with that.
Yes.
He wanted to do these kind of like independent movies, and he knew no studio really wanted to were going to touch them because they're really, Machete is an exploitation film. Planet Death or Planet what is it? Planet
Terror. Planet
Terror is like kind of an exploitation film.
Yeah.
So
I loved
he wanted to have.
movies.
He figured he would have to.
I saw that
right.
in theater too. That was the most fun that I ever had in a movie theater.
I've actually never seen Planet Terror. I've seen Death Proof, but I've never seen Planet Terror.
Man, you gotta see him. Like when I it was just so much fun because we went at midnight. And like it was like the double feature.
Oh yeah, so it was the actual Grindhouse.
Yeah, on like opening night, so everybody there was just like a Tarantino Rodriguez freak too. So like,
yeah,
so like everybody was just like like we basically like everybody was it was like being inside like a football stadium.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun. We did everything except the wave basically in that theater. I'd never been in a louder movie theater where nobody said shut up, and I've never had more fun than watching that than watching Grindhouse.
So the Spy Kids movies, he kind of like, these were like more mainstream compared to his other movies, and they were like kids movies. So, and Spy Kids 1 was pretty successful if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was like
it had a lot of hype. Yeah, it had a lot of hype. It it grossed quite a bit of money. And it was actually apparently nominated for Best Fantasy Film at the Saturn Awards, but lost to Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh, wow.
So there you go.
I mean, that's...
yeah.
There's no contention for that.
Yeah. So it kind of launched this franchise, and I think, it gave Robert Rodriguez enough, like, clout and kind of, like, enough money that he was able to go ahead and make Planet Terror and then Machete.
Cool.
Which, yeah. And it's just cool because he was able to use the character, but I'm pretty sure, like, the whole time, allegedly, apparently when Robert Rodriguez met Danny Trejo, he said, quote, "This guy should be like the Mexican Jean-Claude Van Damme or Charles Bronson, putting out a new movie every year, and his name should be Machete." So the character of Machete was always intended to be Danny Trejo's character, and Robert Rodriguez wanted to turn it into like a franchise character like that. Almost like what was Charles Bronson in that movie that he did? He had like 8 of them.
I've seen like the first 2.
Where he's like a vigilante.
Oh god, why can't I think of it? I've seen the first 2.
Death Wish.
That's what it is. Death Wish.
Yeah, so he did like 8 of those Death Wish movies.
Yeah.
But basically, that was like, the theory behind Machete is that Robert Rodriguez wanted to kind of turn Danny Trejo into the Mexican Charles Bronson, with Death Wish.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of worked. Like, Machete really does have that kind of vibe. He's almost like the Mexican James Bond, almost. Like, he's, he friggin', he gets, like, hooks up with all, like, the hot chicks that are there and stuff like that, and he's, like, this badass, like, assassin, and...
Yeah. Even though the logic in those movies is just, like, over the top, like, ridiculous and doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, he friggin' cuts a guy open in the hospital, and then, like, he, like, drags his intestines all the way across the entire hospital.
Yeah. I mean, it's like
crashes through another window.
It's a Mortal Kombat fatality, pretty much.
Oh, that would be an awesome Mortal Kombat DLC.
Uh, it was interesting watching because like Machete almost was like it was almost like watching a horror movie, except the good guy or the the slasher is the good guy basically. Like
Yeah,
Machete was like almost like a Michael Myers to the bad guys in that movie.
yeah. He couldn't. They couldn't stop this guy. I haven't seen Machete Kills. I've been trying to
I
find,
am not either.
and it's not on like any streaming platforms. I can find. I'm sure it's on something that I'm like not like that I don't have a subscription to.
I think it's available to rent on Amazon.
Oh yeah, I saw that, but I'm not gonna freaking pay like $4 for this. I'm not paying $4 for the sequel. I would pay $4 for the original, but I'm not paying for the sequel.
I'd probably pay for the sequel.
I'm not paying.
I like the original. The sequel's even more over the top because it's got friggin' Charlie Sheen as the president of the United States.
Oh my god! Damn it! Maybe now I should fork over $4 for the sequel.
And also, it in the end, allegedly, it advertises a third Machete spinoff or lead spinoff called Machete Kills Again in Space.
Of course.
I like that Robert Rodriguez is kind of like taken. If this was like a movie that was trying to be a serious movie, it wouldn't work. It would be stupid. It would get bad reviews. But he's doing it on purpose.
Right. And like it's filmed a certain way where like there's like a tint to it. Like it's paying homage to all those like ridiculous action movies. I mean, it even has like, and it clearly doesn't take itself seriously. It's
Right.
I mean, for God's sake, Steven Seagal is like the main bad guy, and he's like doing a terrible like Texas Mexican hybrid accent. I don't even know what it is, because he clearly can't do it, and it's just hilarious.
Yeah.
And like, and of course he has a samurai sword anyway, even though he's like, but like even though he's Mexican, but also I mean he's a drug lord, so I imagine drug lords would have samurai swords. Just
I mean, it's just Steven Seagal playing himself, pretty
yeah,
much.
it's just Steven Seagal being a maniac. And like, and then you have Robert De Niro, who's just like the most unlikely person to be in this movie. Like he was probably voted most unlikely to be in a Danny Trejo movie, like in high school.
Mhm.
Like that's how ridiculous this is. Playing the senator, doing a fake Texas accent, and then like it turns out that he's just Robert De Niro, basically being the wise guy that he was in all the other movies.
Yeah,
So
and he's not even from Texas. He even says that at some point.
yeah, it's just hilarious.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing taken seriously, and then like
No.
Michelle Rodriguez. I don't think there's any relation, but she's just like she just is such a badass in that movie. And Jessica
Yeah, she gets.
pretty badass too, but like Michelle Rodriguez is just such a nut.
Well, she gets shot in the eye and then just wears an eye patch. Like literally, just gets
Yeah.
shot in the eye. And just like fuck it.
Yeah, she just totally shakes it off and no sells it, and then like comes back for more. She's great, and also the kid who was Junie in the Spy Kids movies is like one of like the Resistance guys.
Yeah, he plays one of like the Cholo guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was. It's funny because yeah, obviously there's a lot of like
Oh,
Mexican.
also friggin' Don Johnson being like, "What the hell is he doing here?" Is like the bad guy also.
Oh yeah.
And I don't even know if this may have been like this was one of Lindsay Lohan's last like more notable role. I don't even know what she does now, but like
I don't think. I mean, she probably just sits on the pile of money she has
probably.
from friggin' doing all those things when she was a kid, when she was a child actress.
Well, didn't she sue her dad? Because like her
I
dad
think so.
all the money.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a strange relationship, but like even she's in this thing, and like it's just a very interesting cast. But like they all do their jobs really, really well, and it's hilarious. Also, Cheech Marin is in there too because
Yeah.
why not?
He's in. Well, I mean, he's got to be. He's in like every
He's
other
gotta be. Yeah,
Robert
he has
Rodriguez
to.
movie. So, and Robert Rodriguez tends to use like a lot of like Mexican actors or Mexican American actors in his movies, which is
Yeah,
you know
which is
it's pretty
good.
cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like we need
And it's cool that he
more of
turned
it because
Danny
they're
Trejo
good.
into like a leading man, because Danny Trejo always kind of like just fell into being the bad guy, and like
Yeah,
in like everything he was ever in, he was just really like the bad guy, like the gang member, or like
yeah.
just like
He
the
got
bad
type.
dude, like the drug lord, stuff like
Yeah,
that. So it was
he got typecasted a lot. I mean, we talked about this on like the first episode about like day traders and like
yeah,
day players and typecasting and all that stuff. But
yeah.
he very much did fall into the stereotypical like gangster bad guy or whatever. Uh,
Yeah,
like
it's almost like Tony Sirico, who plays Paulie Walnuts in Sopranos, and he's was in Goodfellas. He's been in a number of films. Always is like he never really got out of that typecasting. He was always just like the low level mafia soldier. Like he never really got past that, which is fine because he played it well, and that's what
yeah,
he literally grew up doing. He was he was an associate with I believe the Colombo family.
holy crap! I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow,
so he basically played himself in everything he played.
wow.
And Danny Trejo was ran with gangs and did some jail time before he became an actor
Yeah, he
too.
was he was in San Quentin for a little while.
Yeah.
Well, actually, like a little while. What does that mean by a little while? He did five. I think he did 5 years. He was in and out of jail and prison throughout the six.
And Sam Quentin
Um,
is
San Quentin's
doing a
pretty.
year in Sam. That's hard time.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy stuff. But yeah, he did time in juvie and 6 California prisons between 59 and 69, and his last prison term was like for 5 years. But while he was in prison, he became a champion boxer in like
Hmm.
prison's lightweight and welterweight divisions, and became part of like a 12-step program, and like that's how he overcame his drug addiction. And it turned like I was listening to an interview with him on Mark Maron's podcast a couple of weeks ago.
Hmm.
Robert Rodriguez is his second cousin.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That I didn't know that. That's
I
interesting.
didn't know that either. Cool. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, so like Trejo, just like he, like when he was a kid, he didn't know, but like his family was just like doing drugs all the time, and they just like offered it to him, and
Yeah.
like just as like a small kid or whatever, he like didn't, he was like 10 years old, 11 years old or whatever, like, and it was just like a regular occurrence that like, oh, dad wants to do heroin with me for my birthday, okay, and like he would just like snort heroin and like not even like know that this was like a terrible thing, or
Yeah.
like or oh wait, no, I think no. Yeah, he would do drugs. He would do like drugs with his family, not knowing that you're not supposed to do this. I was also thinking of like um, I was thinking of Anthony Kiedis from Red Hot Chili Peppers for a second.
Oh, yeah.
It happened
Yeah. Yeah.
too, like except he didn't know that his like dad had given him heroin or something like that. I don't know. It, crazy childhoods, but Trejo didn't know that this was like he thought that this was like a regular thing, so he didn't consider himself an addict because he just thought that this was what you do, and then
Mm.
like this, this turned into what it turned into, and now he's been in, he him being him being in San Quentin, and he's becoming a world class boxer basically.
Mm.
If you could be a champion boxer and like in prison, you could probably he probably could have made some real money in the boxing world too. But like there's a lot that you gotta watch out for. There's a lot of like snakes, and like a lot of times like a lot of people just really don't make a lot of money. Most of
Hmm.
they don't. Um, there was a guy in my Toastmasters group who was like a an amateur pro boxer for a little while.
Hmm.
Like I mean, he boxed for like 15 years, and he and he like knew Don King, and he like had he had like bumped into Mike Tyson here and there when they were both on their way up, and he like ran into a couple of people, and he like helped train and everything. Like this guy, whoever trained him at the boxing gym, I forgot the place. It was like a famous gym. I think the gym is the same gym that trained Tyson. I'm not sure. But, like the guy was just trying to get kids off the streets, and he would just pay for them to be boxers. Like he would pay for their gloves. You would give them free training. You would say, "Listen, just come to my gym, work out, but you need to take it seriously, and make sure that you like because I don't want you to wind up like like a lot of people in this place." He was doing that as like a service, and he was also like managing them for a while. But at some point, the guy got a little sick, and he kind of stepped away from that. And once he stepped away from managing, that he like that's where you start to see more of like the predators come out, like the Don Kings and what have yous, where they start going after like the boxers that are on their way up, and they're just unlike, they're giving them their pay, and they're like, oh, and like the pay is still more money than the boxer's ever seen, but like, but the boxer doesn't really know how bad they're getting screwed. Like the promoter's taking, like the promoter or manager is like taking like 80-70% and just like giving them the 30, and they're like, oh yeah, this is your pay for the night. Then like of course you don't find out until many years later, and you can't even sue the guy because it was all cash. So it's just like, what the hell do I do? Do I really want to keep getting like do I want to keep getting beaten another inch to like closer to death every night? Is this even worth it? So now I'm not sure what he does now. He only came for a couple of classes, but he seemed like a pretty good guy. I mean, we were trying to convince him to just like go back to training people, because he was like clearly very passionate about it. But I don't know. Hopefully, he did it. But yeah, with Trejo just like becoming a champion boxer in the prison, and like I think he was like he was working as like a youth drug counselor. Like a patient asked him to to just ask him about like dealing with like coke problem, like cocaine issues on the set of a movie called Runaway Train. Trejo was like offered a job as an extra in the prison scenes, and like this guy Eddie Bunker, who used to be a convict and was like a crime author who was writing the screenplay, he like recognized Trejo from San Quentin, and he remembered the boxing skills, and he offered him money to train one of the Eric Roberts, who was like one of the guys in the movie. He like offered him, some money to like train him boxing scenes, and the director liked his work, got him a little role as a boxer or whatever, and then his acting career just kind of like started slowly taking off by then, and he just like it just kind like he just kind of fell into it, but it was just it was very fortunate chain of events for him to just like kind of get out of that and like just transition into acting, which I think is really awesome. And it's one of the few it's one of the few it's one of the few industries where being in like prison could potentially help you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like anywhere else, if you try to like, if you try to get like a normal like office job or whatever, and like a criminal record pops up, you ain't getting that job, and you're gonna get stuck in and you're gonna get stuck in the system, and you're just never gonna get ahead. Where like if you try to go into like acting or comedy or some form of entertainment, prison, like going to prison would like actually like helps you in some ways. It's like it's kind of crazy.
Well, I mean, you do, I think, kind of get typecast, like we talked about with
You
Danny
do, but you know
Trejo in his
what?
early career.
Yeah, but you know what? That's still money, and like you get
Yeah,
enough of
it's true.
and you get enough of those gigs that you're making like you're making a pretty comfortable living.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't knock that ever.
I can't believe that, like, Danny Trejo, how old he is, he's still able to do these action movies, because Like
Yeah, I was
right
gonna say
now,
that
today, he's
too.
77 years old. The guy he's an old man,
Yeah,
and he's still like a badass. And you would never guess that he was 77. He doesn't look. I mean, like he has a craggly face and stuff, but like he
yeah,
just
but
looks like kind of like a kind of like just like a rugged kind of dude. Like he doesn't,
yeah, like he
you
just
know.
looks like a he just looks like a grizzled older guy.
Yeah,
He doesn't look like a 70 or he doesn't look like
yeah. I would never guess he was close to 80.
yeah.
Like,
I think at best I would have said he's like I don't know like or like 60 between 60 and 65 at best.
yeah,
I would have said he's probably the same age as my dad.
yeah. I would say he's probably in his 60s just by looking at him. But yeah, almost 80 years old.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can only hope that we do get the third Machete movie. Apparently, Robert Rodriguez said it was greenlit, but it's been almost 8 years now since Machete Kills came out.
Mm.
Um, so Danny Trejo's getting up there in age. I don't know how much he could do anymore. Like I said, he's almost 80, but if he's still in good shape, he might be able. I mean, forget Harrison Ford's still doing like did Star Wars at like 70 something.
Yeah, I mean he was like filming Indiana Jones, so like I think he could.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure we can still do that, and I mean even like I mean even like with like the CGI tech that we have, or like the stunt people and everything, or like the facial uh like technology that we have, they could like easily just they could easily just like put his face on like a stunt person and like
that's true, but I don't really want a deep fake of
no, I
Danny
don't.
Trejo
No,
on
I
a
don't want that
fucking.
either. But like if they absolutely had to, like
Yeah.
let's just say Machete Kills Again ends up getting like made when Danny Trejo's 90. Like he's not going to really be able to do any of those stunts or very few of them, so they'll have to do it.
I mean, they
I
did
don't
that.
even think that it'll get to that level.
They did that with Peter Cushing in Star Wars Rogue One, and I thought it looked awful. Like, I think they could have found someone that looked close enough to Peter Cushing to play Grand Moff Tarkin,
I'm sure they
like
would have.
because it looks so out of place because it was like CGI Grand Moff Tarkin, and everybody else is like a regular human,
Or
you
they could
know?
have just freaking done like they could have just done character effects. They could have just like paid Tom Savini or something to just like do a prosthetic, or they could have just paid like
Yeah,
or they could have just gotten like an intern who like from like a prosthetic school or like a makeup institute or something, or just like ask Tom Savini to just send them over. Just talk to Tom.
it kind of like it makes me wonder what they did because the Princess Leia, like whatever they did for Princess Leia in that looked kind of okay.
Yeah,
It was just Peter Cushing that looked like maybe because they were just more close up to his face, so you could really notice that it was CGI. But
probably because like the further you are away, the further away the shot is, like it's not at like the rendering isn't going to be as intensive, or
yeah,
and you're also not going to see it because it's not close up. Where like when it's a close up shot, you're gonna like the rendering has to be that much larger, and there's just so much more going on with like the pixelations and everything. Where that we're like it's just gonna be like it's just gonna be hard to track.
I
So
don't know. I think it would have been better if they did a lookalike, like they did in Episode 3. You see Grand Moff Tarkin at the very end, the last scene where Vader and Palpatine are looking out at the Death Star being constructed, and you see Grand Moff Tarkin there with them, and then he kind of walks off. And I'm guessing they got like a younger guy that looked like Peter Cushing. But that looks okay.
I guess, but they like yeah, it does look fine, but I still just don't understand why they like this like Hollywood obsession with like like overdoing CGI instead of creature effects. I highly doubt that they're doing it because it's cheaper. I highly doubt
I don't think it is cheaper.
CGI. No, I was going to say that I highly doubt that CGI is cheaper at all, and like
Um,
than creature effects.
I mean, I think it depends on the shot. Obviously, like there might be certain situations where CGI is cheaper to do than actual, practical effect.
I guess,
Um,
but like how often? Because like I was
it's
watching,
hard to say.
like I was like I was telling you before, we were watching we were watching Skull Island tonight, and there
Yeah.
were, and Skull Island. I love that movie. It's really, really great. I mean, we should probably do like a Godzilla King Kong episode at some point.
Yeah.
But I loved that. I love that movie. But every time I see it, there's like certain things where I'm just like, they really could have used, like, they could have done practical effects for this part, or
Yeah.
they could have done like I don't know. Have you seen Skull Island?
I have not. No.
Okay, there's like a couple. There's like one or two close-ups of Kong where it was where like they could have possibly just made something like not like his whole body, but just like his head. They could have just made his head or his
Yeah.
face or whatever. They could have done that, or like there's a couple of like animals that are on the that are just on the island where it was like they're just there for like a couple of shots. There's not really like they're um but they just do like a whole bunch of like CGI, and it just is very obviously CGI where it's like
Mhm.
you could have just made one of them, or
Yeah.
you know or you could have just made this for this shot. It would have been so much more breathtaking. Like the freaking like the Triceratops in like Jurassic Park. It's only there for one scene, but
Yeah.
such a breathtaking shot.
Well, see, Jurassic Park,
So
that
real. I
the
mean,
original
this
Jurassic
was
Park
yeah, that's
was
what I mean.
that was the like they really did. Spielberg did the perfect balance of CGI. Like he only used CGI for the shots that were literally impossible to do with a puppet, like the
Right.
T Rex chasing them in when they were in the Jeep running away. And that's the way it should be done. CGI
Right.
should
I
only
think
be
so
used for
too.
literally shots that would be 100% impossible with puppets, animatronics, or practical any kind of practical effects.
Right, like don't just go overboard with it. Like there's this really hilarious documentary on episode 1 where it's not even like this was just like the making of featurette that was like, just a part of the original like DVD release or everything.
Mhm.
It is in no way intended to be as funny as it is, but is just so funny in retrospect that it just appears to be like it just looks like a mockumentary that somebody just made.
Yeah.
Like it looks like The Office 4 star. Like it looks like
Oh God.
like filming like a Star Wars documentary. It's just so funny because
I think.
how absurd it is. But there's like a part in the beginning where like George Lucas is like just talking about he's talking about his plans for CGI, and he's like, I think we should do a lot of CGI. I think it's going to look really good. I I I really have high hopes for this movie, and this is a really good vision. I think we've got a good crew. Um, he's like showing them the storyboards, and he's like, okay, so in green, where in green it's gonna be all of the live action characters and all of the animatronics and the puppets, and everything that's gonna be in pink, that's all gonna be CGI. Okay, so here we go, and he shows them like he starts showing them the storyboards, and the storyboards are like 9/10 pink,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
and it just and then like it goes to like whoever the idiot freaking whoever like the freaking idiot assistant director is, who clearly doesn't want to be there, and he doesn't want to even do this project, but he just wants it because he could put Star Wars on his resume. He's like
Hmm.
freaking asshole Rick McCollum. He's just like a douchebag the entire time, and he's constantly saying that he's constantly making up excuses as to why he can't be there when they want him to be there, and like George Lucas is enthusiastic about everything, and he's just like, oh, it's gonna be so great when we get the shot in Dubai. I can't wait. You're gonna be here in Dubai, right? And he's like, I think I have a meeting that day, and he like walks off.
Oh my God.
It's like so funny, and then like it just shows like it shows all these like like it shows like the Jar Jar guy and how they're talking up how like Jar Jar is gonna be like the next big thing, and like the actor is just like, yeah, I think this is really gonna make my career, and you're just like, oh no, you poor guy, you poor sob.
Hmm.
Like just looking back at it, it's really funny now.
Yeah. I think the best way to like really compare how bad CGI is versus practical effects, and this is the reason why it's the best way is because it's the same director and it's the same story basically.
Yep.
is the Lord of the Rings trilogy versus the Hobbit trilogy. Because it's the same director, a lot of the same actors, same universe, but the Lord of the Rings was so much more successful for a number of reasons. One of the biggest ones for me personally is that most of it was practical effects. Again, they only use CGI for the absolutely impossible things, like the trolls, because they can't make a giant troll, obviously, in real life that
Right.
can realistically fight with people. But like everything else, they filmed on location, for most wherever they could, they filmed on location. They built sets when they couldn't. There was very little use of green screen. Whereas the Hobbit trilogy, it was almost all CGI for like everything, and they filmed mostly on green screen. They did some on location filming, but mostly on green screen, and you could really tell the difference in like just like the movies themselves, like how like different The Hobbit is from The Lord of the Rings. And again, same director. Basically, everything is the same, except they used mostly CGI.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And it's really sad when you look at like a lot of like behind the scenes for anything now, movie shows, and you're looking at the behind the scenes, and it's just like a bunch of dudes like on a friggin' giant blue screen. Like there's no set at all. It's just them standing on an empty blue background or a green background. You know?
Right. Like it's just all mocap, and
Yeah.
you're kind of like the thing like with behind the scenes things like the reason why I used to like it was to see the puppets or to see
Yes.
like I legitimately wanted to know how the sausage was made. Where like now they all like it's all made the same way and there's nothing special about it. Like there's nothing
Right.
like in
And
like like in like they instead use it as a crutch. Like CG is
yes.
now just a crutch where it's like, oh well, we could just do it. It's easier. It's faster. Or like let's just do it. Where like like practical effects, it's yeah, it takes a little more time, but it looks better. It's because it's
Yes.
real. It looks real because it is physically real. I can
Yes.
really touch this. I have some as an actor, I can interact with this. I can actually react to something that's in front of me.
Right.
I don't have to do any guesswork at where my
Yeah. Just look at a friggin' tennis ball on a stick. Oh, that's what you're supposed to be talking to right there.
yeah
That's smog right there. Talk to it. You
yeah
know?
like it's just not the same, and you're not going to get
No.
the same performance.
No. And I don't want to detract from people that do see computer graphics because I know
No,
it's difficult. It's a
I'm not
skill to
saying it's
have.
bad. It's
And there's plenty of CGI films like that are amazing, like
yes,
Shrek, like But that's the thing is that's a CGI film. You're going in knowing the whole film is animated with CGI.
right. Well,
So,
Avatar too. Avatar was also brilliant.
um, but it's like they use it for like the stupidest things. Like now, if you watch like a lot of modern TV shows, they don't even use squibs anymore for gunfights. Like it's like someone gets shot and it's a CGI blood splatter.
Yeah,
You know, it's like lame. It's and like the guns are shooting CGI like muzzle flashes. They're not. They don't even use blanks.
yeah. It's just not the it's just not the same. Like
It's lazy. It's lazy.
yes, because it's too easy to do. It's too quick to do because
Hmm.
everything has to be fast, which I think is bullshit.
And low budget. That's the thing.
Yeah,
They want to have everything is kind of shifting towards TV, away from like feature films and onto TV. And TV has less budgets usually. I mean, it's starting to change a little bit because you have like Disney kind of getting into it now with their series.
well,
Um,
because on TV you can like you'll get like you're gonna get that are like especially with streaming services
well, that's the thing is the streaming is really kind of taken over.
yeah, with streaming services, you're basically guaranteed to get an ROI unless the like return on investment, unless the show is really horrible. Which at that point you actually might even pull the producers and like do really well with a terrible show if it's that bad. But um, but everybody wants it done like as quick as they possibly can for as little money as possible. Which well,
Yeah.
like even though the budgets are still like huge or and like getting bigger for TV because chances are you're going to recoup that money on TV. Where like people, well, I mean, especially with COVID, people couldn't really go to the movies, and even now, like they can, but like they're still like not, they're still on the fence about it. And also with like Disney Plus, like Disney basically having all the movies that people even want to watch right now, or HBO Max, and you just pay like a few extra dollars. Where if you're a family or even two people, sometimes depending on how much you spend on the movies,
Mm-hmm.
it makes more sense to just be home and watch it and pay the extra money.
Yeah.
So like the so like so like the dollars are talking more to streaming shows and like TV shows now rather than
Mhm.
theatrical releases.
Yeah.
So there's like a big shift there, which I think is interesting. And then how funny would that be where like the Hollywood actors suddenly no longer want to be a Hollywood actor and they want to be a TV actor? Where and
Well, I mean, that's happening, I think, a
it is
lot because
it
there's
is
more money in
happening.
it.
It
It's more
is happening,
guaranteed
but it's
money.
funny. Yeah,
You get like,
that's what I was saying. Like,
right.
you're getting it back. It's guaranteed money.
Yes. Because like, let's say even if the show bombs and it gets canceled, you still get paid for like the 8 episodes or whatever that you filmed for the first season, you know?
Right, and you're still going to get the
Oh,
royalty payments when
right.
someone eventually does watch the show. And
Hmm.
for all you know, like it might not do well right now, but in like, a couple of years, while it's still on the same streaming service, it's going to it'll take off and you'll finally make all that money back. Where if you spend that much where if you spend even more, if you spend like crazy money on like a Hollywood blockbuster film that sucks, then like you're pretty screwed because there
Yeah.
it's gonna be that much longer before royalty money is ever gonna try to recoup that, and by that time, who the hell knows what everything's gonna be? Where at least with the streaming service, it was there from the get go, so you're gonna always get that initial like curiosity jump, and it's still good. And like even when it trails off, it's gonna like be more of like a roller coaster if your show is not bad, whereas opposed to like a whereas like a big budget movie where it's just up or down.
Hmm.
But everything is just kind of going that way, and then but also like the budget, like since the budgets are going to the bigger actors now too, um like the special effects is just going to get less love in terms of practical effects, and they're just going to give it to like the like programmers or people who are really good in After Effects,
Hmm.
which like good for them. Like I'm not against anybody making money. Like if you're good at your job, you should get paid for it. um but like it just sucks that there's no balance between practical effects and CGI, and practical effects is just kind of taking a back seat, which I don't think is cool.
Hmm.
That's kind of like my long-winded argument for that. But I mean, back to Machete. Just it's like it's just such an interesting and wonderful movie that
Yeah.
I love, just because of like how crazy the one line, like just it's not even how like crazy the one-liners are. It's just the plot in general. Like he gets
Yeah.
revenge, and he sleeps with this guy's daughter and his wife.
Yeah.
He ends up like leading the resistance, and then like and then there's the big confrontation, and the senator is like, of course, of course the senator is just like like just a bullshitting politician who like doesn't care about the people and just wants to get elected for the money, and like it's like he has his hand in like the drug trade and everything. So like of course there's that, and then like Machete is just running around like absolutely destroying everybody, and Danny Trejo is just looks like such a badass the whole time.
Yeah. I think one of the craziest, the kind of the funniest part is at the end where Machete finally confronts Torres, the Steven
Yeah.
Seagal's character, and he like first it seems like he's beaten, but then like Machete kind of like picks up the machete and like stabs him, and Torres is still alive, and he's like, "Oh, well, you got me." So he just like takes
Yeah.
the friggin' thing and just like seppukus himself.
Yeah, I was watching that. I was like, why is he doing this?
Yeah.
Uh,
He's like completely fine. He's like a machete just sticking out of him, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh well, I guess I lose," and then he just kills himself with it.
Yeah. It's just so over the top.
It's so over the top, but it's purposely over the top. It's like
Yes.
it's an exploitation film. That's exactly what Robert Rodriguez wanted to do, is to make it just this ridiculous, over the top, obscene, like, raunchy action gore movie, and that's what it is.
Yep. And it's hilarious, and it's just, well, it's just worth watching because it's just so goddamn funny.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's why I keep saying Tom Savini. I totally forgot. I was totally spaced on this. Tom Savini is in Machete.
Real? Who was he?
Tom Savini is that assassin guy that Don Johnson hires
Oh yeah.
that like kills the priest. No, doesn't no Don Johnson kills the priest.
No, he also kills the priest too.
That's right. He also has a hand in it, and like the guy, and like Don Johnson's like, oh no, he's coming for he wants.
No, not Don Johnson. It's Jeff Fay.
Jeff
Is the
Fay.
one that, yeah.
And he's just like, he wants me dead, and then like he's like, we're dead, and then like Tom Savini looks at him, he's like, no, you're dead.
Yeah, you're dead. I mean, they really did a good job of, like, making sure, like, all of the bad guys kind of got their comeuppance in the end. Like, even Robert De Niro's character, the senator, he kind of, like, he gets inadvertently he's going to be executed by his own border patrol like people, right? And then he gets inadvertently saved by the Mexican revolutionaries, and then joins them.
Yeah.
Then he gets shot by Lindsay Lohan because he killed her father.
Yeah.
So she shoots him, but he was wearing a friggin' bullet the whole time. So he survives that, and then he gets killed by, again, gets getting shot by the border patrol guys that escaped from, like, the big battle at the end.
Yeah, because he's like dressed up as like a Mexican because he's dressed up as like the Mexican like revolutionary. So like he's dressed in like cholo gear, and and so like the border patrol people like mistake him, and like they're just like being racist idiots, but like they inadvertently shoot the person who basically told them to do that.
Yeah.
And then he gets electrocuted on the friggin' fence. It's like, it's great.
Yeah, it's like the perfect, like, poetic justice.
Yeah, and he just kind of has that expression on his face where he's like, "Oh, that's what this feels like."
Yeah,
it's just great. But I don't know. I just Machete is just such like a bizarre, like, yet iconic character, and so is Trejo. Like Danny Trejo, he's a larger than life person.
Yeah,
because his story is just unbelievable.
Yeah. He really got a second chance in life, and he made it. He made it worthwhile. So
yeah, he really did.
It's good for him.
Just and he just seems like a wonderful human being. He's got a book out called Trejo. Robert Rodriguez has had a book out for a long time now, but I forget what it's called. But the book is supposed to be really cool. I was watching like an AVGN thing a long time ago where he was talking about like the best books about movies. And like the Robert Rodriguez book was like really, really good because he very accurately details his struggles, his finances, and like everything that went into like making the El Mariachi films, and like just really like you really get a sense of what it's like to be an independent director. But like Trejo's book is it's very new. He's also a restaurateur. He has like it's called like I think it's called Trejo's Tacos. He has a taco truck, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I bet they're good tacos too.
Yeah, they're probably like authentic.
Yeah. I mean, he was also like they also put him in like in like video games every once in a while too, and like this is actually one of the funniest things that I've seen in a long time. Have you seen like the that he's in like the Magic the Gathering arena commercials with
No.
Patton Oswalt. Oh my god, it's so freaking funny. So like this is like I hate YouTube advertisements and I skip them at every chance except this one. This is the only one that I watch where like it's just freaking hilarious. It's like just basically like Machete and Patton Oswalt are roommates with this guy Sean, and Machete and Patton Oswalt both play like they all play Magic, and
Yeah.
they're like they're trying to convince him they're trying to convince the roommate Sean like not to do like they're like not to do how they're just like telling him, listen, stop like don't go to work, don't do what you have to do, don't have any responsibilities, just come play Magic with us. And meanwhile they're like fighting to like as like which strategy he should use, because like Patton Oswalt is like, oh, you should use mono red because it's fast and you should just like you could just win the game as fast as you can, and you could like and then like you could and you could like screw them over before they can even get their plan out. And then
Hmm.
like, no man, you should play control. You should slow it down, man. And they're like fighting with each other, and
Yeah.
like the two of them are like, and they're like, telling him which cards to like use, and it's just it's just like it's funny, just because it's these two random celebrities, which I mean, like celebrities do have their own habits. Like I feel like every day we find out about some other unlikely celebrity that like plays or played Magic at some point, or
Hmm.
like plays D&D or something like that. Like there's always something like that. Like when we talk like when we were talking about Henry Cavill playing World of Warcraft, like just unlikely stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
but it turns out they're all like just nerds anyway. But it's just really funny because it's like Patton Oswalt. Yeah, I could totally see Patton Oswalt playing Magic, but like
Hmm.
Trejo, like telling this guy to use Vorinclex, like who is a Phyrexian Praetor, and he's just like, oh, you should do this, and like because like he's like good for the late game, and he's like talking like the jargon. And it's just like this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just such a funny commercial, and like
Yeah.
they come up with like a chores wheel to like, and of course like it's like only Sean's name is on the chores wheel, and he's like, why do I have to do the chores? And they're like, because we're playing Magic, and it's just funny.
Yeah.
He's been in a bunch of like regular video games too, like Def Jam Fight for New York. He's done some voice over stuff for like some Grand Theft Auto games.
Yeah.
Um, he was in just like he's just I think he was in DLC for like Call of Duty Black Ops
Mhm.
Escalation, and he was just in a bunch of other games too. It's just really funny how this guy has transcended into pop culture himself. Like he is in like as a person, he's in the cloth, he's in the fabric of pop culture, and I think that's really
Mhm.
cool. Like he really has become Machete as a legend. He's become the legendary Machete
Yeah.
in all walks of life.
Apparently, he's also been in music videos for Slayer
Yeah,
and Sepultura.
yeah. I mean, he was in he like was Machete in a music video of some like song called Angel in Blue Jeans, which I don't know what that is, but I just think it's really funny.
Yeah.
Like he's just become this like pop culture god and icon.
Yeah. Which I mean, good. Good for him. He really does play like a badass, like friggin' dude, like really well. Like it's just he's like really the perfect kind of like this is the guy you don't want to screw with.
Yeah, yeah, he embodies that as well because he's legit tough, and also he's a good role model for like kids who are in trouble trying to like just growing up in just like rough situations or and just like trying to like just somebody to look up to, just to like see just to like give them hope to get off the streets. Like
Yeah.
he's a perfect role model. Like not even just for that, because that sounds like that sounds kind of like jerkish, but like he's just a role model for people where it's just like you like if you don't like your situation, you can absolutely change it, and you can
Yeah.
absolutely become a really you can like you can realize your full potential Like,
Yeah.
you just gotta believe in yourself and just put faith into it, and a little bit of luck along the way helps a lot too. But
Yeah.
you just gotta put your mind to it and like and just get out there. But I think that's all I got to say about that. Anything else?
That's a good note. I think that's a good note to end on.
All right, good. Motivational speaking. Add that to the list of things I can do.
Yeah.
All right, high five, everybody. Thank you again for just checking us out and hanging out, sticking around for the show, talking about Danny Trejo, Spy Kids, and practical effects and all this other crazy stuff. Thanks so much for just doing what you're doing, everybody, and I hope you guys are safe and I hope you guys are okay. Thanks, Danny Trejo, for being alive and doing all of these cool things, and thanks, Robert Rodriguez, for also being cool and alive and doing and introducing us to Danny Trejo.
Yeah. And making awesome movies.
Yeah, thank you, San Quentin, for keeping Danny Trejo alive.
Thank you, Prison Boxing League, for giving Danny Trejo something to kind of focus on. And
yeah. Thank you, New York Times bestseller list, for putting Danny Trejo's book on. Thank you, all book retailers, for selling it, except Amazon, because Jeff Bezos should stay in space forever. But he'll probably develop telekinetic powers, and then
he'll be fucking Lex Luger. Lex Luthor. Jesus. Lex Luger.
He practically is. I guarantee you,
Lex Luthor.
Lex Luthor. Or if he
or he'll be Lex Luger. Who knows?
Yeah. Or if he stays in space for a long time, he'll just turn into MODOK or something.
Oh God.
Or a Krang. I bet you he's good. I bet you he's a Krang.
Probably is.
He'll come back as a Krang, or he's like an Archelian alien, and
his face will open up. It's just a little dude inside.
Yeah, but it's just like a vengeful, evil little dude. All right, we're getting off the deep end. This has been Why Is This Exist? I've been Chris.
And I've been Rob.
Now remember, question everything.
Good night, everybody.